they're taking on, Reg, a San Francisco 49er team that is as talented as they come in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Having won 11 straight games, skill players galore on both sides of the ball. And for Kyle Shanahan, being led by a rookie who was Mr. Irrelevant, who is now undefeated so far in his career, but is surrounded by the likes of Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. You can go on and on and on. And then defensively, the number one team in the NFL with what will be, I believe, the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in Nick Bosa, 18.5 sacks, led the NFL in quarterback pressures, was dynamite for a terrific front seven and front four that is the San Francisco 49ers. But
yeah, I feel like when you said led by, I feel like you should have talked about that defense and not Brock Purdy. But hey.
Well, I mean, look, we talk about this a lot. Especially as we get to the playoffs, this is a quarterback-driven league, and the fact that
not that team.
Well, the fact that they're on their third-string quarterback, and he has done the thing that good coaches, I'm talking about Kyle Shanahan, need to do when they have inexperienced players, or just players really in general. Like, put your guys in the best positions to succeed and help them make the plays that they are capable of making. Brock Purdy is making the plays that he is capable of making.
Which is hitting dudes booty butt naked open.
And that's a credit to Kyle Shanahan schematically and what he's done to find and exploit mismatches and utilize the skill sets of his guys. And I think that's what a lot of people marvel and enjoy about Kyle Shanahan as a coach, is that he looks at his guys and says, how can I put you in position to succeed? What skill set do you have that I can exploit in a mismatch that allows our team to be successful on a consistent basis? And they've done that to the tune of 11 straight games. But there's some individual matchups that I think are pretty fun to look at in depth. And this comes from Bleacher Report here, providing us this content. And let's start with the tight end battle, because quiet as it's kept, because he didn't talk on Monday night, Dalton Schultz was phenomenal. 95 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and had the best tight end performance that we've ever seen in a Dallas Cowboy uniform.
Oh, that's spicy.
I mean, I thought it was up there with some of the best, if not the best performance we've seen.
Not gonna argue with you. I'm just saying that's it's a little spicy.
It's interesting because we juxtapose that by the fact that he's going to be a free agent when the season's over with, and the Cowboys got a couple of guys in Hendershot and Ferguson who they believe is their future, but maybe you might have to, I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But the tight end matchup is fascinating here. Dalton Schultz, who is arguably Dak Prescott's safety blanket, most comfortable with.
For sure.
Going up against a guy in George Kittle who is as dynamic of a tight end as you can find in this league. Terrific blocker, physical, fast, catches everything, and really helps this offense for San Francisco in a number of ways, not just from pass catching, but really physically helping in the run game with Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell doing their thing there. I think this is a fascinating tight end matchup, given you got, quiet as it's kept, two of the best in the NFL at the tight end position.
Yeah, but this is interesting because this is not an actual matchup. This is a box score matchup. Because Dalton Schultz will be facing a monstrous defense. Although it has been legitimately the best defense in the league, there are some things that, you have an opportunity at attacking because no team is 100% perfect. They're not going to be, wildly disguising what they do. They just go out there and play because they've got the dogs to do it, or the horses, or whatever other animal you want to use to get your point across that they're really good at football, like the individuals. But you can go and you can try and attack them at the middle. And Dalton Schultz is that guy for this team, right? Running seams and the like. So you've seen him score many a touchdown, running seams between those safeties. And that is where I think the Cowboys are going to need to try and attack. So he will be vital in that way. On the other side, George Kittle, you mentioned how versatile he is, right? One of the things that people talk about a lot is just how incredible he is at blocking, like having an extra tackle out there almost, while also being a dude who can leak out and be fantastic in open space and against defenders. Like, considering what Jaron Kearse went through in that last game, now obviously he said he's going to play 100%, right? So like whatever it is, he's just going to truck through it or whatever. But Jaron Kearse has been one of the big, hey, I can cover a tight end type dudes. this is a hell of an assignment if he is ultimately called to task to guard George Kittle. So, like, this is very interesting in the ways that this is, the box score matchup is interesting, but even like the on-field matchups of this will be just as interesting as who gets more yards, who is more effective in the game.
Yeah, Jaron Kearse, who's dealing with the MCL, sprain, having to go against an all-world tight end and George Kittle is going to be fun to watch. And how Kyle Shanahan goes about attacking this Cowboys secondary in a multitude of ways with the skill position players that he has is going to be just yet another chess match to watch in this game. Matchup number 2, which I think is going to be fun as well. CeeDee Lamb versus this 49ers secondary. I don't know if you watched Seattle and the 49ers in wildcard weekend, but DK Metcalf got off, and Travarius Ward was on the receiving end of some of that, especially that 50-yard bomb that him and Geno Smith he and Metcalf hook up together with in wildcard weekend. CeeDee Lamb has a chance, I think, to have a big game against this secondary, and there are elements that can be had for this 49ers, back in there. How CeeDee Lamb matches up against this secondary is going to be another piece that Kellen Moore will have to try and figure out against this terrific defense.
Yeah, you mentioned Charvarius Ward when we were talking to Miss Sandler earlier today. She was also mentioning how the corners have a little bit of fallibility to them, right? So there's that. But also when we talk about CeeDee Lamb, we talk about getting him in space. And again, attacking the middle of the field. He's been Dalton Schultz's partner in crime in attacking the middle of the field, right? Some of those overs and such. So yeah, no, he's going to be involved in that as well. Yeah, absolutely. Him in that soft space that you might be able to get. And I'm interested in how the secondary of the 49ers go about this, right? How much they're going to play zone versus man in this, because if they do play zone, the likes of CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz finding those zones and sitting into them could be very intriguing for allowing the Cowboys to move the ball, or how do they say it? Matriculate the ball up the field.
It's going to be interesting because we've seen Dak Prescott and some of the evolution of his game, because one of the criticisms that we have had of his game is his times and inability to read coverage. But we've seen him this year, the Philadelphia Eagles found out the hard way, where he went, 24-24 against zone coverage. If you blitz him, he is lethal when it comes to extra defenders coming after him. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. And if you choose to allow Schultz, these tight ends, CeeDee Lamb, to exploit you in the middle, of these zones, especially if you're playing cover 3 looks and allowing the guys to be able to roam in the middle there, you may have some opportunities to be able to make some plays and to be able to move the ball down the field. But the last matchup I find here is going to, I think, determine what happens on Sunday. And I'm going to throw Deebo Samuel into this one as well, because
I was going to need to expand this one.
Yeah. It's Christian McCaffrey versus the Dallas front seven. Now, I throw Deebo Samuel in this mix because he's a wide receiver that runs the football as well. And we know about, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, good back. But the running element and the ways that San Francisco can run the ball, whether it be the jet sweeps, the end arounds, the creative ways that they run the ball, gap integrity is going to have to be at its highest point for the Cowboys, because if they don't, they will exploit you if you don't find a way to be a sure tackling football team and find a way to ensure that your run fits are where they need to be. Because if you don't, this is a 49er run game that can gas you.
Absolutely.
You quite a bit.
Absolutely. And what's funny about Deebo Samuel is if you make him exclusively a wide receiver, he's not an elite one. What makes him elite is that he does all of these other things and that he can be utilized. And so you're absolutely right. This is a running team. They like running the football. But what's funny about the Niners is every one of their skill players, like individually, is really good.
Yes.
And they all do some elements of the offense. Like I don't know if you remember, now this is a really weird reference. Soccer like the Netherlands, maybe 2 decades ago, they got into this thing called total football, where anybody on the pitch, regardless if you're a defender or a forward, would be expected to be able to play anywhere on the pitch. So if you ended up in a place where you were the striker, but you kind of got back, now you the center back, right? Like now you need to be able to competently play this role. Their offense kind of does that, you know what I mean? And with that being the case, how many times do you see Christian McCaffrey end up motioning out and then running routes and putting a defense out of their natural position? So when I saw Christian McCaffrey versus the front seven, I'm thinking Christian McCaffrey against linebackers and the ways in which the defense, I'm not sure if they will play man, but I do think the way that you stop or, kind of are able to neutralize the way that all of these skill players play is playing man. And then, what happens when you have those guys in man coverage? How does that end up going? I'm very intrigued to see how this defense decides to try and handle, obviously, Christian McCaffrey, who is one of the gems of this team, but also Debo and Brandon Ayuk and all those things, right? Like those other guys that have the speed and the capabilities of making things happen in open space, which they frequently do.
You got to be able to bring your hard hat against the San Francisco 49ers because that's a physical football team. And Dan Quinn not just emphasizing trying to create some confusion for the rookie and Brock Purdy, but ensuring that his team is ready to play a physical brand of football, because one of the most scary sights in the NFL is watching big number 71, Trent Williams, who is on his way to Canton, get out there on the edge and get downhill on you. Trent Williams is a load when he gets out on the edge, and a fun offensive lineman to watch. This is why San Francisco is one of the favorites, because they have one of the most, if not the most complete team in the league. The wild card is their quarterback capable of playing at the level needed to help guide them to where they believe they should go.
And you talked about playing on the edge. When we talk about that front seven, playing contain, making sure that you're able to get the edges.
Marcus Lawrence.
From the 8-3-2, Brandon Ayuk is one of the best blockers in the league, right?
Yes.
Getting out to those edges. And you know what that also is going to bring up? Everybody's favorite game show, Will, number 7, tackle. Right? Like those guys are going to have to get involved, because it will get to the outside. And, it seemed like Trayvon Diggs made a few business decisions. And I'm like-minded. I understand. However, when it comes down to like a team that's going to run the football, all hands on deck, man.
Yeah, everybody got to participate in this game. That's for sure.